Hello.
I'm Jamie. I've been in Banff for about 18 months now.
So I'm Adam Swift. I've also lived in Banff for about 18 months. So Jamie and I have been climbing together 4 years now. So we met at uni, but it wasn't until we moved to Scotland together that we really started getting out a lot. Since then we moved to Canada.
Getting out in the mountains, climbing, hiking, mountaineering,
Skiing, ski touring,
ice climbing, trad sport,
scrambling.
everything really.
Every time we go out, try and step it up a notch. Try something we haven't tried before. Push our grades a little bit further than we pushed them before. I try and film everything I do because I enjoy making videos for my YouTube channel. We've tried to climb some of the really classic rock climbs in the area. We've had loads of fun doing it. Banff as a place to live is a dream come true.
Yeah, right at the heart of the Rockies, so you just got everything on your doorstep.
It's got access to all of these amazing mountains. It's a real perfect playground.
Just out that window, you've got Mount Rundle, kind of towers over Banff. On one side it's like a big cliff, on the other side it's like this big kind of mess of rock.
It just looks savage. What you can see from Banff is just the West End peak, and then this huge ridge extends all the way back to the next town along, which is Canmore.
This big long ridge and the highway goes all the way along it, so every time you drive to Canmore, you can't help but just look up. It's got like 11 peaks along it and it just looks immense.
You just can't help but look up in awe at this ridgeline and just think, what must it be like to traverse that entire thing?
Main kind of routes on Rundle are going to be like the West End from Banff, and the other one is Eeyore, which is on the East End, so that starts from just near Canmore. And that's like a really nice kind of hike. It's about 3 or 4 hours maybe. Really good views over Canmore.
There's this huge expanse of tricky terrain in the middle that makes up the Rundle Traverse.
And yeah, the Rundle Traverse was something I found out about pretty soon after I got to Banff.
Quickly we started talking to people, looking it up online, trying to see if there was much about this route.
There's not a huge amount of information on it.
It isn't by any means a classic or a popular route. In some ways that kind of added to the appeal. There's something I think that's quite special about heading up there and seeing what you find, and just knowing that whatever you come across, whatever obstacles are in your way, you've got the problem solving and the skills you need and the equipment to get past that.
The first like half is like mainly hiking, some scrambling with some really fun like exposure, and then after that it gets really fun and technical. You don't have to use a rope, but a rope helps. There's some rappelling and some kind of starting to get into some like mid 5th class climbing. So yeah, it's a long route. But some people do it in one day, which is a big push.
You know, we're not crazy fit athletes or anything like that.
We were going to try and do it in 2 days, so you have to carry like bivvy stuff, so we're going to bivvy halfway along. Just gives you a bit more time. For us, we felt like that was safer, and also like bivvying's fun. We got a really sick spot up on the Rundle looking over Canmore.
We get to bivvy at the top of this massive ridge, which again for us is a massive appeal of the route.
So our first attempt at the Traverse was early June.
We had a few days off work, the 3 of us, myself, Jamie and Ailey.
Sadie McIntyre here.
Burn Daylight Adventures.
She's one of our favourites here on the channel.
We decided to go for it.
And we're off.
There's still quite a lot of snow around. We weren't sure kind of how that was going to affect the route.
We hadn't heard of anyone else doing it so far that year, so there wasn't really any recent trip reports to look at or anything like that, but time for talking about it was over and it was time to see if we could do it.
Pick one.
We started off strong, like we got up Eeyore in about 2 hours, so that's peak number 1.
There we go. Sick. Yeah, it's a little chilly.
And from the top of Eeyore, you can see straight away, like looking down the ridge at the rest of our route, you can see way in the distance peak number 7, which is the true summit of Rundle, and that was looking pretty wintry compared to what we were hoping.
That was plastered in snow. It looked quite intimidating. Weren't sure whether it was going to be feasible or not, but everything always looks worse from far away. Just before that, we knew that we could get down to Goat Creek, so we gave it a go.
A lot of the top of the ridge had been stripped of snow by the wind already, and we made pretty good progress over the first 6 peaks. There's some really nice hands-on scrambling, really nice sort of route finding, and
some good hiking, some good like kind of easier scrambling, some interesting down climb at the end, and some really fun exposure. Kind of walking along these like knife point ridges with like some nice drops off the side, and yeah, it's really good views all day.
Some really awesome exposure. Kind of gets your heart beating a bit. I compare it to the summit ridge of Lady Macdonald or maybe Anarchy in Scotland. We had a lot of fun, just ticking off the peaks.
Peak 2. Peak 3. Ew! Peak number 4. There's a little weather station at the top. Peak 5. Sun's just started to break out and disappear.
The whole time, peak 7 sort of looking a little less daunting each time we take a peak step closer. But it was still looking very wintry.
Still like covered in snow, but we had our crampons and ice axe with us. Stuff we'd done plenty of times before in Scotland and stuff, so we're pretty confident of that sort of terrain. We got to the base of peak 7 and we took a little recce up.
Kind of traversed along the snow slope from the bivvy spots so we could get a better look up the gully and kind of see what sort of terrain we were going to encounter the next day.
And like we thought we could see a few routes that we were going to check out.
We arrived at our bivvy spot at the base of peak 7.
And yeah, it was already built, like there's big like stone walls around it. We kind of added to it and dug out these big snow blocks to kind of make it a bit more sheltered. It just took a bit of time and kept us warm.
It was exactly what you want from a really good bivvy spot. Beautiful views over Camel. Had our dinner, treated to a gorgeous sunset. Yeah, it was a little bit tight with 3 of us, but you know, if anything, that helps you keep warm.
Temperature probably dropped to like just below 0. So yeah, next morning we all had a pretty good night's sleep.
Speaking for myself, I got some pretty good sleep. I'm not too sure about the other 2.
We woke up, had some breakfast.
And as soon as we'd eaten and packed up our stuff, we just attacked it.
It had frozen overnight, so the travel was pretty easy.
We made pretty good progress. The only problem was the snow was slowing us down, so from what we'd read, peak 7 was meant to be this like easy-ish scramble to get to the top, so we thought we'd fly up in maybe half an hour, but
it was fine. It just took a lot longer than we expected.
By the time we got to the top of peak 7, it had taken us about 4 hours. So it was about midday, 1 o'clock by the time we were up there.
In hindsight, we should have set an alarm and woken up early, but we were pretty chilled. You could see around the corner for the first time like the rest of the ridge, peaks 8 to 11, and they look pretty savage. They're a lot more alpine and rocky and steep, a lot more technical than the first day.
With the snow slowing us down to get up peak 7, we knew that the difficulty would just be increasing. I couldn't feasibly see the possibility that we would make peak 11 before it got dark.
We made the call to bail, which was never an easy decision to make, but it was definitely the right one. Had a bite to eat and then started descending.
Just that meant climbing down everything. It just took us 4 hours to get up, and then you can head down the drainage between peak 6 and 7.
We did have to get the rope out one time to kind of rappel down this section we'd climbed up. And a pretty easy escape, but I would not recommend it to anyone.
Pretty much killed me.
By the time we got back to Banff, we were dead.
We were in absolute pieces. Straight away, we were already talking about our second attempt.
Obviously we knew that we had to wait for the snow to melt.
We could see the snows gradually receding.
And yeah, then we had a couple of weeks of like really warm weather and just like the whole area just got stripped of snow. And so then from then we were like game on.
There are a few little snow patches still up there, which was actually a good thing because that will be a water source for our second attempt. We decided it was time to go for it again. There wasn't really any doubt in our minds. We were in very good spirits going into that second attempt.
Yeah, so for this attempt we decided that we were going to try and get peak 7 before nightfall. So we read that there was like a bivvy spot just after peak 7. And in that way then we had less to do on the second day, which we knew was going to be more time consuming and more technical.
The Queen of Faff.
Queen of Faff.
We might be at the top by August.
To get up Eeyore again in under 2 hours. Chatted to a few people at the top of Eeyore that seemed surprised that we were attacking the entire ridge, and already from the top of Eeyore, like, we felt so much better because you could see it again across the peak 7, and you could see that the snow that was there last time was pretty much completely gone.
Again, really fun day. We had slightly better weather.
Alright, peak number 2. Oh, hey! Ooh, very nice. Now crouch down as I push. The Queen of Faff. Back at it again.
Made very quick progress again, all the way to the base of peak 7. We actually saw our bivvy from last time, and yeah, it's nice to see that little spot where we spent the night before.
Yeah, we got to peak 7 and just pretty much went straight for it. There was a bit of a trickle coming down, so we managed to get some water there. And yeah, just started scrambling up, and it was pretty easy.
Just made progress so much faster than we did the first time.
Climbing up onto the summit ridge is like epic. Like, this is the true summit of Rundle, and it's pretty narrow. It was a good feeling getting to the top, having had to bail just before nightfall.
Summit 7 back on the ridge. This is now our personal record for distance on the ridge.
And yeah, the views were insane. Looking back down towards kind of Canmore.
Looks so sick.
We'd read about a bivvy spot between peaks 7 and 8, so that was what we were aiming for.
Route finding was a bit tricky on this bit.
So from the top of peak 7, little kind of bit of scrambly down climbing, and then you find this rappel station.
But we found the rappel station, and then yeah, rappelled down, and pretty much the bivvy spot was right there.
It's time to stop for the night. So we're going to bivvy in this little spot right here. It is just absolutely stunning now that the sun's come out. Our bivvy spot's perfect, it's a little snug, but other than that, we are happy.
Coming?
Yeah.
Bedtime.
And again, it was another beautiful night. Woke up and the stars were so clear. Yeah, it was a stunning bivvy spot.
It was pretty tight, but you know, we're all good friends, so.
We made it through the night, but I don't know, we've woken up and the weather is not as nice as we hoped.
Woke up, had some porridge.
The top trick, put chocolate raisins in your porridge and the chocolate melts and flavours the porridge. You're left over with raisins. we're expecting today to be a sequence of like scrambles and rappels, and when we get to peak 11, which is the crux, like we might end up having to rope up.
Packed all our things, made sure we were ready to go, well fed.
Next morning, woke up, fantastic spirits. Time to head into the unknown again and go further than we've been before.
Just at the bilac or saddle between peak 8 and peak 7. Jamie just scrambling up peak 8. Oh, just incredible. Peak number 8. Woo! Yeah, just be really wary of this drop, because everything's loose. And yeah, you just be falling into the abyss. Woo!
And we got to this rappel station, and it's like really epic rappel actually. Got this really epic photo of me rappelling, just silhouetted over the rock. Yeah, it was really spectacular actually.
But the head wall of peak 9, you need to descend down the base of this head wall, tuck around the back, and then there's a much easier way to gain the summit. You eventually come to this sort of col. You've got all these like steps. It looks super easy scrambling to the top. I think our takeaway is that the earlier you join this ridge coming up here, the easier time you're gonna have. I think that is probably peak 9. It's a pretty exposed ridge to get there.
There's like a really like thin ridge between like the summit and I guess the full summit of peak 9. Really knife point edge and like a huge drop off the other side.
It's actually quite wide. Just at peak number 9. We came up too far to the left, so we've had to backtrack along the ridge just to get this peak, purely for completion's sake. So we've got this kind of small peak between 9 and 10, and it looks super intimidating from far away. But now that I'm really close to it, it doesn't look that bad at all. Looking forward, it's just straight up to the summit of peak 10.
What we encountered was pretty much what we expected, you know. Every peak was now a bit more technical.
There's a few kind of pinnacles that weren't that easy to kind of get across.
Quickly, you know, we ticked off 8, 9, and then I was feeling very motivated, and we're circling around to peak 10.
It's mainly just a kind of hike slash scramble up to 10, and then it's actually short chimney to get you to the top, and it's like right at the summit.
You come up to this like short chimney, which from the descriptions we read we knew was 5th class in nature, mid 5th class.
It's the only kind of obvious route up. A little bit of ledge like you have to climb up to first, and then you've got like the chimney. So we kind of got up just below that ledge, and we were like sussing it out, and it looked alright. We've
been climbing strong all day. It looked like it would go without any problems, so you know, for the sake of being quick, we sort of decided that Jamie would check it out.
I managed to get up onto the ledge without too much trouble. Had a look at it up close, and it felt around, and it seemed alright. There's a few little footholds. And managed to do it, managed to get up. We planned for Adam to come up behind me and bring the rope up so that he could set up a top rope.
We both climbed at very similar levels, and I was like, okay, sound. Let's follow him up. So as soon as he was up, it was my go.
So I went up ahead to set up an anchor. I scrambled up towards the summit and found this big boulder at the top that was solid. So I put some cord around that and was kind of sorting that out.
I didn't really think twice. I was just like, right, let's go. Yeah, gained that ledge pretty easily. And then as I started climbing the chimney, I'm not quite sure what happened, to be honest. I don't remember being pumped or being like shaky or out of my comfort zone. You know, I was quite comfortable the whole time. And then like in an instant, I wasn't on the wall anymore.
Breathe. Breath, okay? Deep breath.
Yeah.
Just stay.
Ah.
No, just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. It's fine. You're gonna be fine. What? Your turn. I'm fine. Okay, I know.
So yeah, I was like just standing at this anchor and I hear these like 3 pretty piercing screams.
It just happened so fast that 1 second I'm climbing, happy, and the next I was about 25 meters below. And during that fall, I felt my leg snap completely. So on my right leg, 2/3 down from my knee, just above my ankle, I felt that whole thing completely snap. And I remember seeing my foot flip up towards my knee. I fell back down to where Ailey was and then bounced and continued to sort of ragdoll down this steep squeeze slope until I eventually like hit this kind of more solid boulder ledge thing.
Heart drops. Ailey just screamed up saying that Adam had broken his leg. Instantly you know that shit got real.
In that moment when I knew my leg was broken and I hit the ground, I remember thinking that was it. That was the end of all of this, really. You know, it takes your mind a little while to kind of realize what's happened and realize you're still here. That's when I sort of tuned in to Ailey shouting down at me. So I managed to shout up to her that everything's okay, but I have broken my leg. I think she said, "Are you sure?" And I was like looking at it coming out of this disgusting angle like, "No, yeah, I'm pretty sure."
So I bought a Garmin InReach a couple of months ago maybe. So I ran out to my bag, got that.
That meant as soon as Ailey communicated to Jamie that there was an issue, he could press the SOS button and that sends your exact coordinates to your local search and rescue or mountain rescue authority.
Within about 2 minutes I got a message back saying that they received my SOS. Within about 5 or 10 minutes I got a message on the InReach saying that they dispatched a helicopter.
I was kind of propping myself up with my good leg, but like looking at my other leg, there was sort of a right angle in my shin. Your heart sinks, and the pain was by far the most excruciating thing I've ever experienced. But at the same time as that, it was actually very easy for me in my head to sort of acknowledge the pain, separate it, and then think very like logically and critically about my situation.
I wanted to get down to help out, make sure everyone was alright. Ailey was down there, she wanted to get down to him as well. I shouted down to her, like, make sure that you're not putting yourself in danger. And even if that means she can't get to Adam, then that's fine. We'll do all that. So I managed to kind of fix up something with some cord and I kind of rappelled down to Ailey.
And she gets a call with one of the Parks Canada representatives who was asking questions, asking about our situation and working out, you know, how best to proceed. And so for me, like hearing that news from Ailey, it was just like a massive like wait, like help is coming. We're gonna live to fight another day. I
rappelled / down climbed down to Adam, got down to Adam, saw how he was doing, which wasn't great. I've seen him better. And then we kind of tied Adam into the rope so that he was secure and wasn't going to slide.
It was so comforting to have them next to me as well. As soon as you kind of have that barrier of friends around you, like you just feel so much more protected, even if you're not at all. Whilst they were doing that, I'd managed to sort of shift myself, and in doing so, I'd like straighten my leg.
We got a splint on his leg. He could lift his leg, but his ankle was staying there, so I had to try and lift his boot and his foot and move it with it. And it was very obvious that his ankle and his leg were 2 separate entities. Like there was nothing between them. It was quite grim. And then I guess the other priority was just making sure that we were all comfortable, safe, fed, hydrated, trying to keep spirits high, make sure that he wasn't going to sleep. It was like 20 minutes, half an hour max until the helicopter arrived. It was amazing. The response time was incredible. Yeah, we put our hands in the air to say like we were the ones that needed help. Maybe 5 minutes later, it came back with this huge like 50-meter sling, like hanging off the bottom with this like rescuer on.
Helicopter turned up, dropped the first rescuer off. It was just so calm. It was really amazing to me how at ease it made me felt, the way he wasn't stressed at all. He was just like, hi, this is my name, this is what's going to happen, how's everyone doing? The fact that everyone around me wasn't really that stressed out really helped me stay calm.
Yeah, and a couple of minutes later the chopper came back with another rescuer on the end of the line. Yeah, and then they just kind of secured themselves. They put a bolt in the rock. They were safe, and Adam and Ailey were tied into that.
They were pretty much straight into action. I was actually a lot more mobile than they sort of expected. You know, my arms still worked, my back, my neck, my head all felt fine. So I was actually able to like sort of shift and position myself. So that meant we could get a vacuum splint around my entire right leg. That was so much better because now my foot couldn't move at all. You know, that broken bone wasn't able to move inside my leg anymore.
Yeah, it was all very like efficient and clean. And it was amazing, like watching them work. It was incredible.
So they got me in a screamer suit, which apparently is called that because most people scream during takeoff. It's basically a big nappy that kind of goes around your body and your legs. Myself and one of the rescuers were the first to get lifted away. As soon as this chain hanging from the bottom of the helicopter comes in, she grabs it, clips onto us, gives the signal, he takes off, and then before you know it, you're flying through the Rockies with a broken leg.
It was quite a weird moment seeing Adam fly off. Obviously never expect to see that sight.
I've never had that view of the Rockies personally, and to have it with a broken leg almost felt like a dream, or maybe a nightmare, I'm not quite sure. Before I know it, we're touching down at Banff Golf Course, and there's an ambulance there and 4 paramedics waiting for me. And as soon as we touch down, they jump into action. I'm in the ambulance, giving me sort of pain medication, getting my boot off, kind of ripping open my trousers and assessing my leg. Then we're away to hospital.
Helicopter comes back along, the guy puts out his hand, carabiner comes in, we all clip all the bags in together, and then like before we know it, like didn't have any time to think about it or prepare the fact that we were about to be lifted, hoisted off into oblivion, and you're just like flying over the Rockies, and you had this like awesome view, like drone-like view of the ridge we'd just been on and the summit we were attempting, and the rest of the Rundle Traverse. It was amazing. I had a quick like debrief with the rescuers, and then we went to visit Adam in the hospital straight away.
You know, I arrive in hospital, they saw the extent of the break. What I'd actually done was completely snapped the tibia and fibia in my right leg. There was no bone connection between my ankle and my knee. Because it was such a high energy break, where those breaks occurred had kind of been an explosion of bones. There are a lot of like fragments and things. I can't really express just how lucky I was that was my only injury. My hands were all sort of cut up and my arms, but it was all like superficial. These were all just cuts and bruises that were going to heal over time. But the break itself, I think the surgeons were actually kind of impressed at what I'd managed to do to my leg. And bear in mind, Banff is a town with 3 ski resorts, so I don't think they're strangers to bad leg injuries either. I was informed that I was going to have surgery on it the next day. The surgeon that was going to be doing it is kind of one of the best in his field. He operates on Olympians and stuff like that, so I was like, again, super fortunate.
So yeah, after a long night, I didn't really get much sleep. I kind of dozed off on painkillers. I'm now going in for surgery this morning.
So they made an incision in the top of my right knee, through which they pushed this metal rod that extends from the top of my knee right the way down to my ankle.
So we've had the surgery, and the doctor says he's very pleased with how it went.
You can see the scar on my knee here. From there, it was just starting my recovery.
So we've been home from hospital for what, 3 days now? Yeah, 2 nights back at home, my own bed, and yeah, starting to recover now. It's been quite nice. I had like so many phone calls with friends and family, and friends coming to see me, and yeah, feeling very loved.
took like a few days for the whole thing to kind of sink in. Yeah, you don't really process it straight away. And it's quite a traumatic experience, really.
Yeah, I've had good days and bad days. Some days you look at it in a really negative way. Other days you look at it in a really positive way and think about all the things that you are still going to be able to do in the future because you got so lucky. But the one thing that I just can't get out of my head is just how completely grateful I am to the Parks Canada visitor safety specialists. My two rescuers in particular were just so amazingly professional and calm and reassuring. I've been in contact with them personally since the accident and kind of conveyed that, but yeah, I also just wanted to mention it. And the pilot as well needs a particular shout out because I don't understand how you can be so precise with something so massive. And all the people in the background that like answered our SOS and took our call and reassured Ailey over the phone, unbelievable, and I'm incredibly indebted to them. They're amazing people, and the fact that they do that as a day job every day, unbelievable. Even after that, all the care I received at Banff Springs Hospital, the nurses were all so lovely. My surgeon was just unbelievable, always so positive and happy and joking around. Like, I think at one point he even said, like, yeah, I think I got your toes pointing in the right direction, so that's always a good thing. I think at times like that it is good to have humour because in your head the situation is so serious that someone kind of making light of it really helps. Nearly been 4 weeks since the accident. I'm still recovering, I'm still getting better day by day. It's still going to be like 3 or 4 more weeks until I can stand without crutches. Being at home on my own, you get a lot of time to sort of think what went wrong, what went right. The fact that we had the N-reach and were able to get help so quickly. The fact that we had the skill and the knowledge to secure a fixed line. We were even able to do first aid. So I've also had time to think about how this incident is going to change my climbing career going forward.
Brought up a lot of questions about kind of consequence and risk and weighing up those two. And
I think in the past we've always focused on risk a lot more. We think, that looks easy, let's go for it, we don't need a rope because chances are I'm not going to fall. That is low risk.
We never really considered what would happen if we fell. We just figured that we should have been able to do it.
What I don't think we consider so much in the past is the consequence. So where we were on the Traverse, yes, that's a low 5th class chimney. It's just a couple of moves. I do that 100 times. 99 of the times I don't fall.
It was relatively easy climbing, and for us we were pretty confident that any other day it would have been fine. However, the consequence of falling was obviously quite high.
So I was incredibly lucky that the consequences were only a broken leg. So going forward, I think consequence is going to have a lot more weight in my decision making process, and if that means taking a bit more time to rope up, then so be it.
Would have taken an extra 5 minutes to place a couple of bits of pro on that short section of chimney, and that would have prevented anything like this happening. Sometimes speed is safety, but in this situation we have plenty of time.
Carrying a heavier pack is a lot better than that being the last route you ever try, right?
Stop a lot more now and ask what if. You've got to weigh up both. They both have a kind of equal weight.
I'm really hoping that this is just a sort of learning experience that becomes sort of a little story in the whole saga that will be my climbing career.
That was a situation we shouldn't be in, because the next time we won't be so lucky.
I think the other thing this whole experience sort of taught me is that your best safety net you have when you're out in these dangerous places are the people you take with you. Go out with people you trust, because at the end of the day they might be the ones saving your life, and in my case that was true. I'm also so indebted to Jamie and Ailey for both springing into action. I want to say that I hope I can return the favour one day, but I also really hope I never have to.
I've been out in the hills a few times since, more just hiking and stuff. But it's not going to stop me exploring the mountains.
Despite everything, I am hopeful and excited to get back out there. And
I want to try the Traverse again at some point. It won't be probably for a couple of years. Think about things a little differently, and doesn't mean we can't do it, just means you've got to go about it a different way.
These routes we go for and these objectives we try and achieve are dangerous. That's not to be taken lightly, but at the same time, that shouldn't stop you getting out there. And everyone's got to find their own balance. Look after yourself out there, guys. Have fun, and most of all, stay safe. Look after each other, and we'll see you out there soon.